as human beings, I always sometimes imagine myself when we were still evolving, and maybe we didn't have it compassion as we know it now. Kind of empathy and love and kind of like a caring for them as us, the interbeing nature. So compassion is feeling this deep sense of connection through our shared humanity. But I love exercise, to rewind through evolutionary, yeah, how that evolved from, the mother and the child. I'm sure a mammalian, you can see this in mammals as well, vertebrates that take care of their babies, right? And the mother of like many animal groups will sacrifice its own life for the child. That's pretty radical. I wouldn't say that's compassion, but it's definitely not, you know, and the life preserving nature of animals, right? You know, where does that fit? Because the mother can survive and produce more offspring, but she would risk her life for her child. That's pretty crazy. So in a way, it's a little bit counter, but evolutionary in a sense. But maybe saving the child is to guarantee that continuation. Anyway, I always like to look at some of the early stages of care and sacrifice and feeling to prevent pain. When you see painful things happening to even animals, we like have aversion to that, let alone to other human beings, unless we train ourselves to demonize them and see them as inhuman, or like they're evil, or like a threat to humanity, right? That's the only way you can. That's how the military works, and all the endeavors to cause destruction. You need to like convince, because naturally, like a soldier, they're a father too. Like they see their child. Naturally, they also have that emotion. So you have to look at it. Don't take the Buddhist teaching just because it's been taught like that, right? So you have to look. It's like, man, what are the early stages of compassion look like? So you have to do those exercises. So I can give you a very rote answer about compassion, but what's important for me is for you to, for all of us to really look at our own nature. I look at ourselves, and yeah, when I see someone suffering, it's like, or like when I see one person doing harm to another person, or even through words, I feel awful. Like, and maybe it's just yeah. I mean, I'm part of the evolution in the human family, so you can't really, say that I'm just one person. I mean, I think a lot of people feel that, but not all people feel that because of their own upbringing and their, you know, how they, have formed. So anyway, compassion for me is a good, but it's a very linked to suffering. That's one thing you have to see and understand. Compassion lives off of suffering. Love is great. You love, but compassion, love, it thrives on like lovable things. Things are well, great, admirable, and honorable, and these things are like positive, a character, right? You kind of love them. You love your children, but compassion is one beyond that. It actually, when your child or something suffers, and if you understand it, then that feeling comes. It's not just love. It's actually, very linked to that suffering or that challenge. So that's a very good thing to contemplate on. That actually compassion thrives from suffering. It's kind of weird, but it is kind of like the lotus of the mud of suffering, right? Those two are very connected. So it's interesting to see that compassion grew out of suffering. So if you look that in the biological sense, as we evolve and we're taking care of our children and our tribe and so on, it must have moved on from that evolved state, from elementary kind of care, love, and is it protection of the species, kind of, in the language of biology, right? To a more sacrificing, so that others can suffer less. That's pretty cool. You think about it. So it's not innate in everyone. But it's there. There are people who will do things and out of compassion, and you can see this during the war in Vietnam. Monks and nuns and lay people burning themselves with gasoline, and they don't do it out of despair and suicide. But why do they do that? It challenged the heck out of the more modern, rational Western society in the newspaper. Like, these people are deranged, these Buddhists are da da da. Because, you look at history, even in Christian, Jesus going to the cross for others. Why would you do that? So something happened in the human psyche to see, probably because of this connection, so they no longer fear for their own death, but to see the benefit of awakening people and to bring relief to those who are suffering, because there's no other ways to communicate it. So these are some of the activities that the monks and nuns did, and the lay friends did, the Buddhists, during the war. And as a young person, I was like, man, what is that? I even asked Thai in the early days of the first retreat about that, because I didn't understand it either. Because I was reading through Western media, right, and the libraries. But Thai, yeah, I think he's published some of his answer to that. But mainly, it's a challenge. It's like, I love keeping it as a challenge. Like, wow, and it has a lot to do with suffering and compassion. You see, so you think of the, more Neanderthal and early human Homo sapiens caring for their tribe, their babies, their offspring, to like modern times. But anyway, I keep it, not as an answer, but an invitation to reflect on the role of compassion and how much we need more of that nowadays, because of the proliferation of a notion of separateness, of us against others, and not seeing our common humanity and our mutual suffering. When you cause harm to another person, there's no way that's not going to return to you. That is also a fundamental nature of interbeing, the cause and effect. Yeah, when you cause harm to other people, there will be a psychological payment, a cost. You cause harm to the environment, humanity, and the living species will have to pay. So the interbeing is also a cause and effects dynamic. So compassion has a potential to actually cut that cause and effects cycle, the vicious cycle they call it. Okay, with my life, this lifetime, I end the resentment. I do not blame any fathers anymore. You see, at least I ended that. I'm not going to get enlightened, but I will never blame another person again, even those causing great evil in the world. I don't hold harm, blame, hate in my heart. I can say that. Of course, it's going to make me angry. It's going to make me react. But I might have some judgment on their choices of solution, but I will not blame them. You see the difference? I think they're stupid, yeah, but I do not blame them because I know why they are like that. So at least one vicious cycle I have can confirm that I will not blame anyone, including myself. So I'm on, that has a lot to do with being compassionate towards oneself, not blaming oneself, but seeing causes a condition to cause us to be who we are now and to giving it more space and time and to evolve and not blaming others because you see also that into being nature of who they are, that they are also the victim. So compassion has a lot of more space. Anger is also a great force, but usually it's implosive. It will kill you eventually. It could cause a lot of immediate effect, but you study human history and so on, you see it's quite implosive. From one dictator to the next, killed by the same poison. So compassion, he's evolved and it's pretty resilient. It's still around. Greed is pretty strong. Greed for fame, and grasping for fame, craving and all that's pretty strong energy too. And you can see it's taking a lot on it now with the capitalist movement and the easy way to exploit. So that's pretty powerful right now. Anger and hate is pretty, but compassion is pretty resilient. I have that trust. Because everyone that was born and they were held by their mom and dad, man, no matter what. Unless they really beat you and like try to kill you. But I think majority of us probably, were raised at some maybe incident before the parents got berserked and stressed and mistreated you. You're probably well loved, at least a moment. That's why I always will bet it on compassion. Because, as we are born as a human family, I mean, yeah, maybe your parents didn't love you, but maybe your aunt or your grandma. Maybe you got deserted, but someone took you in. So I have that strong conviction that compassion will take,